The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't
The
care.
BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report. Well, you knew it was going to happen at some point. Luke Perry,
Yeah.
how are you?
I'm good, brother.
I knew this was going to happen, especially once Brian Austin Green knocked down the door.
Oh,
Made it clear.
See, I didn't even know that, but you know, Brian's a trailblazer in so many ways.
He is. That's the thing. Yeah, we starred on the wedding band together.
Oh,
Well, we didn't really star. I was in the scene for like 2 seconds.
I love that show. Every time there's a show I like, you know, I couldn't believe it. I thought the music was great. I thought the comedy was funny. Stories were good.
I think the fact that it was an hour, I think ended
Yeah,
up.
trim it down.
Yeah, it's got to be. If it was a half hour, I think it would have made it.
I always used to say to Brian, speed up, faster, funnier,
Yeah.
faster.
Yeah. So you're wearing a Browns hat.
Sporting a Browns lid.
If you're listening to the podcast, you can't see it, but if you're watching, you can see it. And you were.
And I didn't know you would be watching. I didn't know you filmed this thing.
I know. We cut it into little internet clips that people get
Right.
excited about.
There you go.
So you're from Ohio,
I am from a small town in Ohio.
and the Browns. You
Yeah.
lose the Browns. They go to Baltimore. They
Yeah.
win the Super Bowl. Then you get a new team. And that new team is then terrible for 12 solid years. Now you have new management that we like, including Mike Lombardi, who was our best BS Report guest for
Absolutely, he's the first. You know, all you
And
can
his
think
GM.
of, all the Browns fans, all they've talked about for the last decade, 12 years, is Art Modell sucks. They just
Right.
not
Rip the
dig
heart
it.
out of the team.
Rip the heart out of the town. You know, not just. But the football fans of Cleveland never went away. We were talking about that on the way in too. The team went away. Fans never went away.
Right.
The love of football in Cleveland never went away.
So I've had this running joke in my column about how God hates Cleveland because of all the terrible sports things that have happened.
Yeah. Well,
Do you buy that?
There's a very good argument to be made there, for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
LeBron was probably what was the lower point, you think? The Browns leaving or LeBron ditching them on national TV for Miami? I would say the Browns, but I think it's at least an argument.
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, LeBron's LeBron, but he's not the Cleveland Browns. I mean, he's one player, and his career will come and go. But the magnitude of that team and their legacy is bigger than any one player.
Yes.
And
But you knew you were getting the team back. When they left, you knew they were coming back at some point.
I knew somebody was coming. I didn't
Yeah.
think there would be this giant ongoing football void in Cleveland, Ohio. That's just not. That's not possible because for the brief time that it did go on, it was just too weird.
So what's your favorite sport, football or basketball?
Basketball.
Lakers? Cavs?
What about them?
What's your team?
Currently, I don't have a team. You know, the last time I really had a team was the 76ers. And when they traded AI, I figured they didn't want to win anymore. So I quit following them. And, you know, when Barkley left, it was hard. If it, you know,
Right.
that was the hardest for me. It was when Charles first left and went to Phoenix. And because for Dr. J, like this place is plastered with great photos. In my house, in my room, it was all Dr. J. There wasn't really much anybody else on the wall. It was just the doctor everywhere you looked. And I loved the Sixers. I loved them for a long time. But when they let AI go,
That was it.
yeah, it's funny how there's a moment for you where it all kind of died away.
Yeah, I'm worried the Red Sox are starting to approach that moment because we have such bad owners that I don't like, and I'm worried that they're going to push me to that point.
It's
hope
like
they
that.
don't.
See, and that completely contradicts what I had just earlier said about LeBron and Cleveland and the Browns. That one player isn't bigger than the legacy of an entire team. Whereas with me, I thought Allen was such a special talent. You know, while he was still young enough and had the skills and was still fast. And I thought maybe 2 seasons too soon they pulled the plug on him. And
So when Barkley was on the Sixers, 90210 was taken off. Were you using the juice to get like court sides?
You
and
know
stuff?
what? Chuck was playing in. He was playing in Texas, and I was down there, and the Suns were playing the Spurs, and I was shooting in town, and I was sitting there and I had seats right under the bucket, and I was about 2 rows back, right underneath the basket, and I'm sitting there and I'm watching the game, and last 8 seconds of the game, Chuck gets the ball, dribbles to the top of the key, and he just kind of stands there and he's watching the clock dribble down, gets to 1, he shoots it, drains it. Place goes wild. They win the game. Chuck walks over and goes, "You Luke Perry?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Come here, man. Come here. And I was like, "What?" I stood up, and he put his arm around me. We went walking in through the crowd, which was an experience unlike anything. I don't know if you've ever gone through a crowd with Charles after he just won the game.
No, I have not had that experience.
Horrible things people say to him, they would just...
yelling it. And then different era, too. People are meaner.
Yelling, screaming, racial stuff, all kinds of stuff. And he
just bounced off.
He didn't blink, or he had something to say back to every single one of them, and he never broke stride. I mean, it was just... And I said... what's going on here? What is it always like this? And he goes, everywhere I go. And that's just the way it was, man. He lives it like that.
So what happened? So you go into the locker room with
we
Charles
go to the locker
Barkley.
room, he's like, "Oh man, my wife loves the show." And he's like, "Guys, look who I got." And all of a sudden, I'm meeting all the dudes, and it was wild because they.
Come on, you went out after though.
They are so much bigger. We went. Where was it? After the game, we went. We were at a restaurant, like a club, something like that, and Chuck was doing the local news. And they were saying, "So, Chuck, where you been? What are you doing?" I don't remember exactly the question, but his answer included the F word, and it came out so effortlessly, fluidly, flawlessly, and he just kept rolling like, it's up to you. You can film it, not film it, record it, not record it. He's just going to be who he's going to be. I thought it was pretty great. I like his. He's genuine. He is who 100%. He is, and there's never some time where he stops being him to be something else, and I really appreciate that.
In 2002, I went down to do a column on that show. It was right when the show was really taking off with him and Kenny on TNT.
Oh, great. Such chemistry there. Right?
That was great. And we went out after, and we went to Buckhead, and he was in a bar, and he just kind of stood near the bar, and he liked to see everybody, but he would talk to everybody. And I'd never seen a celebrity who handled the whole scene better, because he had just people coming up to him. He was always friendly. He was kind of life of the party. He's juggling 8 people at the same time. And it just never ended, but he was always on.
And it's
which
always
I think is
sincere.
hard to be.
It's not, that's who he is. He's not putting on that act. Like you said, if somebody talks to him, he'll talk back. If not, he'll probably just stand there, enjoy his drink, and say whatever's on his mind. You can always pretty much count on that.
Because I think when you're out like that everybody has an on-off button, and it doesn't seem like he has one. Yeah. I think his is just permanently on.
Yeah. I like the on-off switch. Just off is usually where I'm at with that.
You must have had people coming up to you all the time.
Only when you leave the house. Only if you go somewhere else. The rest of the time, it's okay. But I'm more that, like I said, I have the off switch. I don't. It's hard for me to sometimes navigate crowds of people like that.
Were you somebody you seem like you were much more of a private guy? Even when the heyday of that show.
Well, certainly I don't have as many opinions as Charles, and the ones I have, I'm happy to keep them to myself.
Who were the most outgoing people on that show? During the heyday.
Jason's
you guys
very
what do you have, 20 million people watching in the heyday?
Yeah, something like that. But audiences are so fragmented now on TV. If you had, there shows that are hits are pulling 6-8 million viewers, and that's
I don't think there's a show
that's a big show.
It would be the number 1 rated show now. It was just because it was less channels.
I never know how any of that stuff works, but I do know now there's less channels, and it's harder and harder for the networks to hold their audience share because of all the competition.
I know, my kids. Your kids are older now, but my kids they love the Disney Channel shows. They love Jessie, which is a show you probably don't know because your kids are older. But these shows that they wouldn't have had 20 years ago, and I don't know what they would have watched.
Where everybody in the show, every kid is a musical star somehow. Every kid's a singer or a dancer or they play something, and and they have the kooky friend, and sometimes the kooky friend plays something. I've seen them all, man. My daughter just devours that stuff. Yeah.
And now it's like, because you have Netflix, and you have Apple TV, and you have Amazon Prime, and you have all these like
Hulu,
on-demand. It's this whole on-demand nation.
Yeah.
And they're all raking in crazy money because everybody with kids.
And that boggles my mind.
It.
That's because I don't know how. I don't understand all the business models yet, exactly where they generate all that revenue. The other thing is, when I was growing up, when you wanted to watch a television show, you literally had to make a date with the TV. You were gonna be in front of the screen and see, or you blew it, you missed it. And if it was like an ongoing anthology of something, or an ongoing serialized something, you missed one. So it was very serious viewing. Nowadays, it's I don't know. It doesn't seem as important to people. Television was really important to me when I was a kid. It was a big, being in a small town in Ohio, it was one of the only distractions that we had, and I just loved it. But now it's become a lot less important in some respects, and still in some ways it's very, it's the best way to reach the mass audience.
Sunday night seems like the only night left that kind of carries that weight. Because I remember, like, even something like when Melrose Place started, and that became a 2-hour block on Monday nights. And that became like an event. People would get together and they would watch both of those shows.
And it was soon thereafter, though, that all the technology, was implemented.
Right. Then all of a sudden you had DVR. You didn't have DVRs back then. I think you just had VHS.
No, they didn't have DVRs, and they weren't sure how to figure in these numbers of like how many people actually were and weren't, and there wasn't any email, so there was no internet presence of any kind, and I don't know how you
that kind of came along in the last half of the show, but the first half of the show, no internet whatsoever.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm very behind all of it. I only recently got to the internet myself, so it may very well have been the second half of the show.
Because that would have been fascinating. That's a totally different show in the internet era.
I think so. I think it probably is.
Because the internet's mean, and the internet,
it seems
they cut the clips in a way that could both help and hurt the show.
Yeah, and it's proven to have the ability to sort of rob people of their dignity instantly.
Yeah.
In a way in which it can never be restored. It's like you can't make a mistake anymore and have it forgiven or have it go away, because it's been recorded in the digital media now. So it's a file of some kind, and it never is going to go away. And I think that there's a big learning curve in life that people sort of aren't going to have the benefit of, and that's important. That's important for our society. You got to be able to make a mistake, and I just think that the margins for those kind of errors are getting thinner and thinner.
Well, especially like if you're somebody who became famous when you're 18, 19, or even early 20s. Now you have this whole TMZ era, and like you're coming out of a bar at 2 a.m, and you got the guy with the camera, positioned right on you, and I don't get
Robert
that whole
Mitchum
part either.
would have kicked the shit out of every one of those dudes, and they wouldn't have probably done too much, to him for doing.
I think Sean Penn tried to.
Yeah, you can't. There's too many. That's why they call them, paparazzi. The word means fleas. There's too many of them, and they're just swarming around. You can't.
What was LA like in the 90s with that stuff? It seemed like that was like the last time it would have been really fun to be famous. Now it's like you're just scrutinized constantly.
Yeah. I feel like we kind of got it in under the wire, in terms of that kind of stuff. It's just such an invasive process now. If being famous is anything that you're interested in, you don't have to be, successful on a successful show or good at your job or having on. You can be famous real quick,
right? These
days. And again, like I said, and it ain't going away. Once you are, people are always going to know you. But I don't know. I'm glad that I really don't have to deal with it too much being an actor. I just try to play the parts and really handle that part of it. And, the other part of it with doing the interviews and stuff, it just goes with it. But when that's over, it's over.
Did you do a lot of that stuff when you were? You kind of seem like you kept a low profile.
You're contractually obligated to do a bunch of stuff that you don't know you're contractually obligated to do when you get it. But again, I wasn't really thinking about that. I just wanted to, I was like, put me in, coach. I just want to play. I just want to play. That's how I felt earlier in my career.
Well, they were also working you like dogs on that show. You were having like 30 episode seasons. They'd never do that stuff now.
Yeah, it was like, oh, you want to play? You want to run the ball? Here, 30 times up the middle.
30 episodes.
Yeah, 30, 32. I see you got I gotta see you got the Funk Brothers on this wrestling poster over here.
Oh, you like that?
I love wrestling, dude. I've always Roddy Piper and JYD. Yeah. That's a pretty good card.
It's really hard to find good wrestling posters on eBay. I may look from time to time.
Yeah, quality ones with
quality
guys.
ones.
With
you
guys
want to find the ones from the 70s that look like that one where you have
minimal artwork and it's black and white.
If you can get a high school, it's even better.
Yeah. Yeah, they used to have. First time I saw wrestling was in the 7-Eleven Union Hall in Mansfield, Ohio, and it was one of these, concrete block buildings with a slightly domed roof, and it was where they would have the union meetings and union halls and all the guys from steel mills, stuff like that. And me and my friends, we'd all got together to go. The place was about 30 miles away, and we drove up there, and we were driving around looking for a place to park, and as we drove by, these two doors opened up. Somebody was going in, and I could see inside this smoky room, Kevin Sullivan had this guy above his head like this, and was just getting ready to slam him down, and the door closed, and I was like, you got to park this thing. I jumped out of a moving vehicle. I was I got to get in there. I had to see. It was just a spectacle. Kevin Sullivan, you never see guys that big, that huge back then. He used to hold the world record for the squat, I think, maybe even the deadlift. He was a legit athlete. And I was just blown away by it when I got in there and saw the athleticism of it, the guys who were doing it. And I've seen a lot of wrestling in my day. I still love to go. I'm trying to make WrestleMania this year.
Still love to go. Interesting.
Love to go, dude. Me and my son, we go and we love it.
Have they ever involved you in anything?
Oh yeah, they let me. Yeah, I was it the Diva search when they were picking one of the divas one time, and they let me get in the ring and be a judge for that. And my son was like, young at the time, and he was really into it. I mean, crazily into it, and we went all the time. And it was great. And also, I kind of met Laurinaitis, James Laurinaitis. My son's a huge fan, and for 90 days in a row, he wore a Laurinaitis jersey to school when he was a kid. You're saying about the kid that wore the Brett Favre jersey for 25 years, and he was only 7 or something like that. But yeah, my son, we had our own version of that, and it was number 33. And every night, man, I'd have to wash that sucker and make sure it was ready to go the next day.
So it's in New York this year.
Yeah, Rutherford, East Rutherford, New Jersey.
The
WrestleMania.
Yeah, Giant Stadium.
Yeah, and The Rock's going to fight John Cena. Is that what I'm hearing? Something like that. Dude, that's now in the annals of wrestling. That's going to be a big match.
Well, you also have CM Punk versus The Undertaker. The Undertaker going for 20 straight.
Taker's a legend. I mean, yeah.
And it's almost
he's cool. He's a cool dude.
They got to end the streak at some point, but nobody knows what year that's going to be. And I'm actually more excited for that match than the other one. I love WrestleMania. I get WrestleMania every year, even though I've fallen out of wrestling a little bit.
Yeah.
The great thing I still know what's going on.
Like with basketball, in and out of basketball. But when you know the game, when you know basically what the game is and the fundamentals and the beauty of the game, you could turn on any game at any time and watch it. And the same is true of wrestling. When you know what it is and what you're seeing, you can turn it on.
We were talking about TV events like days and stuff. There was probably like a 3-year stretch with the Monday nights when the WCW was still good.
Yeah.
And WWE was good. They were going at it back and forth and.
Yeah. And Vince McMahon was cleaning up on both sides of the coin.
Yeah,
he was so
crazy.
Brilliant. Yeah. His marketing of that and his ability to take its own medium, sports entertainment. It's a hybrid, and he's able to take that and turn it into everything that they've been able to turn it into.
I actually wanted to go to WrestleMania this year, but we have an NBA show that Sunday, and I can't. But I think it's going to be a good one.
I think
stadium,
it will be.
80,000.
Yeah, they got to have them in a place like that because that's the kind of draw, 60, 80,000 people.
So you were in the news this summer. There was a rumor that seemed like it wasn't true that you and Jenny Garth were dating. And people on my staff got very excited on Grantland that it wasn't true. And that it ended up in the gossip things for a couple. What's it like to end up in the gossip rags for things that isn't true? Just like shrug it off?
Yeah. Yeah, I don't pay any attention to it. I mean, you know what's true. You live your life, and you know what happens, things you do, and the rest of it's just somebody writing something.
Do your friends call you and be like, "What's up with this?"
A couple of times. Yeah, I can. A couple of times they call me, "Hey, I just read." I'm like, "No." The best ones are, I just read you died snowboarding on a thing somewhere. That was a couple of years.
That's on the internet?
That was a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was on the internet.
But you died in a snowboarding accident?
Yeah, my phone started ringing pretty early in the morning.
How would even somebody make that up?
No idea.
I would have gone snowmobile.
I don't know how anything gets on the internet. I don't know how you make something go to the internet.
Do you think it's funny that people liked you two as a fake couple so much that they wanted it to become a real couple?
I think that happens all the time. I do. Hollywood's a weird place, man. I mean, you get people all the time that are playing a couple, and they are a couple, and then sometimes, like a guy married the girl that played his sister. I mean, weird things happen.
Dexter.
Dexter
married his sister.
Okay. See, now by my estimation, that's not an everyday happening, but to some folks, that's the way to go, and to each his own. But
that kind of ruined Dexter for me. I got to be honest.
Have a little trouble keeping your mind on the scene after you had that.
Weird.
Which is the essence of why all this press and all this stuff sucks for actors in Hollywood is. Everybody can't know everything all the time, because if they do, that's what they're thinking about. And it's harder to engage in the suspended disbelief that has to go on when you watch a movie or you watch a show. The audience has to agree to go with you. You have to compel them. That's your job as the actor, but there's an agreement there that they got to kind of go with, and it muddies the water. It muddies the waters a lot when you have all this other information flying around about all this other stuff, and you've seen pictures of them at the grocery store.
I think that hurt Jennifer Aniston, actually. People knew so much about her personal life,
and she's broke now.
But I bet it hurt her creatively, I should say, not financially.
Oh, absolutely.
But people just feel like they knew her and she was in their life every week. Then it kind of robs the excitement of, hey, she has a movie coming out.
Yeah, you become ubiquitous. They don't want to.
Whereas the opposite, Daniel Day-Lewis, it's like, I don't know anything about that guy. I don't even know if he's married. Mm-hmm. But yet he pops up every 3 years in some movie, and it's like, hey, it's Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, he's lucky, and he doesn't get the gravity and the nature of the projects that he is involved in. It doesn't require him to do anything but do those projects and service them in a few really high-end press opportunities.
De Niro was good at that too. You never knew what De Niro was up to unless he was making a movie.
I don't know why anybody would want anybody to know what they were up to if you don't have to, right? Your private life is your life. Like I don't do Twitter.
But you get it. No. It's not for you. Or
you
don't even get it.
I don't receive it. I don't participate in it. I just think, the general idea is you've got something to say that's so important you want the whole world to hear it. Is that it? Or can you I think it's people would say it's make it go to a particular person, only that person.
No, people would say you're connecting with your fans. So it's part promotional. Because you're using it to promote whatever you're doing. It's part, hey, I'm still here, and it's part, you like this side of me because you like everything else I'm doing, and here's another piece of that. I would say that would be the philosophy. Doesn't sound like it's for you because you don't care.
I don't really care if they like what I'm doing, or I don't.
Right now, you could have tweeted, headed to the BS report with Bill Simmons. I'm excited. Yeah. Bringing my dog.
I got to say. Because this is unedited. This is just you and I talking.
Yes.
And it's legitimate, and there's an honesty to it that I appreciate. So I was looking forward to this.
Yeah.
It's just a dialogue. You're asking what you want to ask, and we can talk about anything in here, and that's okay. When you go into a more of a okay, this is your segment on the talk show, and you got 4 minutes, and we need you to say this, that, and the other thing. Those are less fun to do. I don't look forward to doing those.
Like a 4-minute Conan O'Brien segment or something.
Conan's always good. That's fun to do. But yeah, there are
a talk show where you have to tell your 2 stories, and he makes his 3 jokes, and you kind of know where it's going.
And now we're back with Skippy, the dog.
It's funny,
and you're stuck in between that and somebody.
I saw you on the Andy Cohen show a month ago. It was on.
Yeah, that's a crazy show.
I put my bedroom TV on. It was like right at 11 o'clock, and Bravo was on because my wife was taping Real Housewives of something. So it was right on. I was like, hey, it's Luke Perry. So I started watching, and it was, I couldn't tell if it was the worst 30 minutes of your life or you were really enjoying yourself.
I couldn't either.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
because it seemed like you were going back and forth.
I wasn't sure because, well, here's the thing: you got to participate.
You're with Kristen Johnson from.
I was with Kristen Johnson from Third Rock.
Third Rock of the Sun,
and she was promoting a book about sobriety, and I was sitting there with a beer in my hand. You know, so
right.
that there's a little.
And was it live or was it not live?
No, it was live.
So it's live. It's 11 o'clock.
Yeah, yes, it was late
East
at night.
Coast time.
Late at night, East Coast time. The thing that I thought was interesting about that, again, was this guy hosts this talk show in a room this big.
Yeah,
that's how big it is. He runs that network. Is that?
He seems like he runs Bravo.
No,
yes.
I think he actually.
Yeah,
runs
I think he might
Bravo,
actually makes the decisions for it.
A great deal of their programming.
Yes.
So he's got like a fiefdom going on over there. I thought that was interesting. I thought, I want to have a look and see what that looks like. In this day and age, you can actually run the network. I mean, can you imagine Rupert Murdoch hosting a talk show?
Right.
That's not going to happen. Or the head of any major network sitting down hosting a talk show. That's probably not going to happen. So I thought I'd check that out. And I didn't know the format of it. And
so you didn't know anything about the show. You just went on it.
No, but then again, I'm not that concerned with the outcome. I just want to. I'll go. I'll be the best guest I can. I will talk about the things I'm supposed to talk about. I was promoting a project that I really cared about and wanted to do well, so I was happy to talk about it. But at the same time, you don't want to be the guy that goes on the show and this show's getting a little wild, and then not participate in it. Because when I'm watching a show like that, and I can see that. The guest is trying to just be too cool for what's going on. It doesn't appeal to me, and I don't respond to that. I've seen people try to do that with David Letterman, and he just eats them alive.
Right.
And when you go on Letterman, you got to listen. You got to listen to every single word. You got to let him talk. You got to, you really have to be ready to say something back, and you hope it's something intelligent. And you can't do that if you're not paying attention. So I try to pay attention to whoever's running the show, and up to the point that I can stand it and it's not too ridiculous, I play along.
You were involved in one of the great moments in the history. I wrote for Jimmy Kimmel Show for the first 18 months it was on. And we had Monica.
That's what they called the good time, back when it was good.
What do you mean?
No, I'm kidding.
Well, we had
Bobcat there?
Bobcat wasn't there yet, but we had the thing we were most famous for the first year was probably just the green room, which was like a party every night.
Loved it.
You were there a few times.
I think I was on the show twice and in the green room 5 times. Yeah, it was one of those things. They're like, where are you going? I'm like, I don't know. Let's go to the Kimmel Green Room. Yeah. It's the best party in town for a while.
That was our legacy for a while.
Yeah,
and then now it's like a great show. He's doing awesome. But we had Monica Lewinsky as the guest co-host.
I was there with
You
Monica.
were on the show.
Yeah.
And she came on.
She was awesome.
And her only condition was that she wouldn't talk about Bill Clinton, which was a total bummer because what else are we going to talk to her about?
Well...
But we didn't have the power as a show to kind of be like, no, we're talking about this. So like 2 episodes passes where nobody says anything. And then on your show, you were out there and she was out there and you brought it up organically on the show. I don't know if you remember this.
I don't.
You made some sort of thing and it was like, I always thought you were kind of cute since the Clinton thing. Like you basically started flirting with their TV show flirting.
I'm going to tell you what, I liked her a lot.
She was cute.
She was cute. She was funny.
But you broke the Clinton seal, and we were all watching behind stage like, yes, somebody brought it up because Jimmy couldn't do it. And then once you did it, it was off, and she was like cornered.
Okay, I didn't intentionally
do it. It was great. So thank you for that.
Well, I guess you're welcome. I mean, like I said, I didn't intentionally do it. I don't think I would intentionally do it. But that was the thing I remember about that night was after we're on the couch, we go outside because Marilyn Manson is performing outside. And I'm sitting there on this couch in an alley in Hollywood while Marilyn Manson's performing, and Monica's sitting there beside me, and I thought, I'll remember this. I'm always going to remember that.
And she was also thinking, I'm going to remember this. She's probably having the exact same thought.
I hope so. But I'll tell you what, I've been on a lot of talk shows with a lot of different people. None of them did I enjoy more than her. She was great. Seriously,
you were one of our favorite guests because you a lot of the guests just leave after, but you hung out.
Sometimes I just leave after, and sometimes I hang out. But
You hung
again,
out. We liked when the guests hung
I remember
after.
the ADs. I cannot remember the name, but they're a father son. They've been running the show. One's a second AD, he works backstage, and one works right out by the stage. And guys, please forgive me for not remembering your names because I've known you forever. But I always liked that they worked together as a real family kind of feel to it. And it was it was a good vibe and open bar. I remember that. Yeah,
Very open. Extremely open.
yeah. And some shows
I
are
think
great.
that stopped eventually.
Some shows are all good things must end. Some shows have a different they have a different vibe. They're very different.
When did you go? Like, when did you know you were going to go into acting? Because it seems like you're a pretty cerebral guy.
It does.
It does seem that way.
I just always wanted to do it. I don't know. I never.
Like in high school, were you in the theater and stuff? Were you doing plays?
We didn't have a theater. I was in a play in high school till for a minute. They kicked me out of it because I wasn't being a team player, and that's when I learned how important it is. You got to be a team. Got to be a team player. And but I always knew what I wanted to do. And
But you're in Ohio.
yeah,
So how do you get to LA?
Pontiac, Sunbird.
Did you go by yourself?
No, me and a friend of mine, a guy who was older than me, had been here before. He said he was going back, and I was like, you got to give me a ride.
How old were you?
17, 18.
And you want to be an actor at that point?
Oh, I wanted to be an actor before that. I just, like you said, there wasn't any opportunity to do
Yeah.
it. And I kept thinking, I got to get to New York or Hollywood, where they do that sort of thing. And it took me, I had to wait till I was out of school.
So you go to LA, what happens? Where do you live?
Nothing.
Where are you living?
Huntington Beach.
Huntington Beach?
Huntington Beach in a motel.
Hulk Hogan. Home of
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan.
Right. We trained together. Yeah. You think this builds itself? Dude. Huntington Beach. I lived in Long Beach for a while, Paramount, Downey.
So you're bouncing around going on auditions.
Bouncing around.
And
There
what
wasn't on auditions yet. And for the first year and a half or a couple years I was out here, I just I didn't even get to Hollywood. I didn't have the money or the time. I was just always working. I was
What are you working at? Waiting tables? What are you doing?
I was a paver mostly.
Paver. Interesting. Was not expecting that answer. So then how do you get to Hollywood?
Well, I figured out where it was. One day we literally had this job that was north of Hollywood, I think at Camarillo, and you had to drive up the 101 freeway.
Yeah.
Driving up the 101, and I literally see the sign sticking out of the side of the mountain. Hollywood. I'm like,
Right, there it is.
That must be the place.
I got to live somewhere near there.
Note to self. It says it right there on the side of the mountain. So I started working trying to get closer to Hollywood to, saved up some money and then moved to Hollywood. Found an acting class, started going to it.
So what was your first break?
It was on a soap opera that shot in New York. I auditioned for it out here in California and had to fly to New York and do a screen test. And I got that job and then had to quickly turn around and move back to New York.
So you go to New York, then what happens?
Froze my ass off. Got off that plane in a T-shirt that said Long Beach. No coat. It was February. I froze my ass off. Yeah, it was funny. And then they put you in a hotel for 2 weeks. This was the relocation deal.
Oh, yeah.
They put you in a hotel for 2 weeks, and then you're on your own. And so I stayed at the Mayflower Hotel, which I don't think is there anymore. Trump knocked it down, made a big tower there, which was absolutely what they needed, Donald. And so I stayed there in the Mayflower for a couple weeks and worked, and just started going to work. Did that for about a year.
So how'd you get back to LA?
I took a train this time.
But was it for a job or just?
No, I was just broke. And it's cheaper to live in LA than it is New York.
Yeah.
All actors know this. It's easier in LA because it's cheaper to live.
Yeah.
You get more opportunities. There are more things cast out of LA at that time. There's just you could throw the net wider, kind of a thing. So I knew I needed to get back to LA. And I'm not much of a city guy. It's hard for me to live in New York. It takes a lot out of me.
So was 90210 your first big break? I mean, was it your first like? I
was-
have a steady job that I'm going to get a paycheck for.
It was the first. It was the first like primetime show I'd ever been. I'd been
'Cause you weren't on the pilot.
No. I've been in some commercials and I'd done the soap opera and some theater and stuff, but I'd never been on. No.
So you weren't on the pilot, which was like 2 hours. But then then it becomes a series, and somehow you're on.
I was the guest star in
Right.
in the first episode.
So you didn't know you were coming back.
No, I wouldn't. I thought it was just it was going to be you're going to be the guest star in the episode, and the next week there'd be another guest starring up. But
Really?
but I remember it was the most money I was ever going to make, at one time ever doing anything, just being the guest star on that show. And so I was stoked about that. And I had no other questions other than where do I need to be, and what are my lines? Okay, great, and I'll be there. And about 3 or 4 days into it, they said, Mr. Spelling wants to see you in his office.
Oh, that's a good thing.
No, usually it's like the principal's,
Oh, you thought
it's
you were
at
in
the principal's
trouble.
office. Yeah, somebody knocks on the door in social studies or whatever.
Yeah.
Luke Perry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought, I'm going to get it. And it just went the other way. It didn't go like I thought it was going to go.
So he goes, we want you to be on the show.
How would you like to stick around for a while? Yeah. Yeah.
And you were like, yes, I would like to.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. May I have another?
Right.
And and he had me stay for some more shows, like 7 or 8 more of the 10 that they had ordered, something like that, 13. I don't know. The numbers escape me now, but he wanted me to stay on, and then when they got picked up for the other episodes to complete the rest of the season.
When did you? So at some point you're in the
stay.
credits, which is the big win. Once you're in the credits, they can't get rid of you really for a while.
Well, they can always get rid
Well,
of you.
but I mean,
Yeah,
the credits, at least you know you're
but then
there
they
for
have
the season.
Right, then they have to re-edit the credits, and that costs money. So they're loath to do that. But yeah, it's when you realize you're going to be in the opening credits, it's got to be like
Plus you're dating one of the stars.
starting lineup for the first time.
Right.
And
you're dating one of the 2 stars characters on the show, which is a good thing because that means you're in one of the 2 big plots. So now you're probably staying.
Oh, now you're figuring stuff out.
Yeah.
I didn't think about it like that at the time. I just kept, just wanted to see. I was reading the story of it and going, okay, and how many lines? Yeah. And after a while, you start counting your lines. And you're like, shit, that's a lot of dialogue. I got to learn that.
So if you're doing only a guest star spot, are you creating the character on the spot, or are you just like you're basically playing a version of you? Like, how does that work? Because the character in the first show was basically the character.
Mm-hmm. And for the audition, you create the character for the audition, and then if that's what it's like, you go in and the audition is, here's this vacuum. This is what it looks like. And now on the day, you try to give them the vacuum they bought.
So you're like, they tell you like he's a rich kid.
Yeah.
Recovering alcoholic.
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 lines of
He's a little mysterious.
They said he's wealthy. His parents are gone. He drinks. Yeah. So they give you like this sketch of it, and you start trying to figure it out.
He's going to 2 years from now, he's going to grow sideburns. That will revolutionize the sideburn industry. That's way down. That's way down the line.
That's way down. That was on the pink pages, and I didn't get those. Because the pages all start coming out in different colors too. For a dyslexic like myself, that's always great when they start printing only half the page, and it's not easy.
He's going to reinvigorate the love triangle on television, which is really the 90210, one of the legacies, the love triangle, which had kind of fallen by the wayside.
And now it's become. It should be a television staple, don't you think?
It is now. It's totally now.
If it's done well, it's fun to watch.
Who do you think? Who was ultimately the best partner for her?
Define her.
Kelly.
The
Because this is a pretty polarizing argument for the 90210 nerds.
Of which I'm now discovering the depth of your personal.
Oh, how did you not know?
I just didn't know. Dude.
Come on.
But now I'm.
See, Juliet's laughing there.
I do hear that. Yeah, I can hear that clucking laughter. That's funny. You got a good laugh.
You must have been asked this question before.
Oh, who's her best? Well, hands down, I think that it was Jason.
Really?
Yeah.
More stable. She needs the stability.
Exactly. See, and that's a logical choice to make for that. My guy was a lot of things. Stable wasn't one of them.
You're probably right.
Right? And if you're looking out for her in the long term, which is what you want to do, then you got to do that thing and, fall on the sword and let your best friend have her. And that's what my guy would do.
The stability was good because a lot of things happened to her.
Yeah, man. She got set on fire one time.
The cult. She joined a cult.
Yeah, she joined a cult. She did.
Remember? She got shot.
Oh, yeah, that's right. She had a lot going on.
Diet pills. That was bad. She was like the first soap opera. Like what? I don't know what the word is, but so like the one in a nighttime soap opera where just the bad things keep happening, like Kenny from South Park, but as a TV character.
She's a 3-dimensional Kenny, and that's what we've always thought of her as. That's exactly it. She's 3D Kenny.
This Brandon really only had the gambling was his only vice.
Yeah, the gambling, and
which I was identified with as having a gambling problem.
Didn't he smoke meth a couple of times or something like that?
I don't remember the
ecstasy. He took ecstasy on a very special.
Oh, the very with
on a very special.
Oh yeah,
something. I remember he took ecstasy.
Yeah, but they didn't call it ecstasy. They called it something else.
It's always the way. Well, I don't think that. You know why? Because
I don't think it was legal to call it ecstasy.
Ecstasy's a registered trademark, and somebody, and we would have had to do ecstasy product placement, and then that wouldn't have worked.
It was like I can't remember the name of it, but something like that. Yeah, I think Brandon would get away with stuff because it was never his fault. Like I think he got spiked. But remember?
Yeah, that's the old dramatic device.
Juliet says it was Euphoria.
The moment you walked in here, it was Euphoria. Oh, I missed your podcast with Mike. I see the picture of Mike Tyson over there.
He was unbelievable.
He is unbelievable.
The most self-aware, so much more self-aware than I think he gets credit for. Somebody who is had a lot of stuff happen to him, but gets it and gets like his place in, I don't know, not society or how he's perceived. I thought it was really interesting.
I haven't had any chance to speak at length with him. I met him at a fight in Vegas one night, and he sat 2 seats from me. The lady that was with him sat beside me, and for the first round of the fight, there were 2 other people sitting in those seats. They were like seat filler types, and then when Mike came in. It parts like the Red Sea, man. And I mean, I've seen him at other fights from a distance, and they always say the other champs that are there, and they get but when they say Mike Tyson, I mean, it just parts, and he comes walking through. And
the weird thing is, you get used to the tattoo immediately. Like it photographs and on TV looks different than in person.
That's where I was going with that because I didn't know him, but he walked past me, and he was sitting on the left of me. As you can see, the right, there's no tattoo.
Yeah.
And we're watching the fight, and the round ends. And immediately when the round ends, he reaches over and says, "Hi, I'm Mike, and this is my girlfriend." And when he turns, and then the tattoo comes right there to you, and he's so gracious and so cool, like you said.
Yeah.
It just goes away. You're looking in his eyes, and you're talking to the guy.
He's doing these one-man shows that people are going nuts about.
I heard that yesterday. I heard him talking about it, actually. He was talking to on NPR. He was talking to Lawrence Olney on NPR, and I thought he was really, like you said, he was very honest about it, very self-aware, and pretty articulate about it.
You did. You went to, after 90210, you went to Oz.
Right.
Which is one of my favorite shows.
It's good writing.
Great writing.
Great writing.
Probably the first. It paved the way for all the HBO shows and Showtime shows that came next.
The thing that I thought was great about it, they were absolutely breaking new ground and sort of planting the flag farther out in some new territory that just hadn't been seen before. And anytime someone can do that in television, it gets my attention. I think like Breaking Bad, they just take it to a direction you don't think that television's ever really going to go. And
Oz definitely did that.
And Oz was so extreme. Yeah. That
Oz had some of the craziest scenes to this day that were ever filmed.
I tell people, and because if you just say, well, yeah, and then this guy was doing this, and in the background, this is what was going on. Yeah, it's the craziest stuff ever. But the stories weren't gratuitous. The stories weren't. They weren't that exploitive, Yeah. I thought they were actually going for some good stuff there. There was merit to the stories that they were trying to tell. And so within that, the prism of that really extreme situation, that's when those stories became interesting to me. Because I remember when my my wife and I were watching it, when I knew that I was going to go work there, we were watching an episode, and I was like, kind of checking it like that, and I was like, "Whoa, that's rough." But again, very challenging. And
did you find that there was like a whole group of Oz nerds that were out there, like that were like just totally not till after?
Not until after. Yeah, but it has a following, to be sure. Yeah.
Plus, they've been rerunning them.
Have they?
They're on DVD.
There you go.
DVD box set.
Well, and you look at the cast of actors that's on that show, with
a lot of them went on to do stuff.
J.K. Simmons and Chris Maloney, Harold Perrineau, the Wedding Band.
And Lost.
And Lost, David Zayas was on the show, Kirk Acevedo. I could go on. There's just a lot of really...
Edie Falco was on that show.
A lot of really talented, good actors. And anytime you get to work with a group like that, you'd be fool not to.
I think Edie Falco did double duty one year. She was on that show, and she was Carmela Soprano at the same time. Yeah, because she didn't know if it was going to make it.
Yeah, she had a daytime job as a prison guard. And then, Sopranos. She's such a great actress, though, man. I saw her do Frankie and Johnny with Stanley Tucci on Broadway. She's brilliant.
Did you feel like post 90210, like you had to take a couple challenges to break away from the stereotype of the character?
I think you're always looking for challenges in the work. I am, anyway. I like to do stuff that challenges me. The whole stereotype thing, I don't think you can break it. It's pretty strong. The machine is built to do it, And so if you worry about it, you get caught up in it. I don't think about it. I just keep playing parts. And eventually, I think there's probably not like a shattering moment where something like that goes away. You just erode at it piece by piece. You just keep, keep swinging, keep hitting. One day you look up, you pass Pete Rose and Ty Cobb. Ideally, you just keep hitting the ball.
Well, then they had the new show, so that probably helped, because then it's like 90210 means something totally different to people under 22, maybe, because they watched that show in, I think, 5 years.
Fair enough.
Right? And then the older one seems like, the first incarnation, basically. But I think the last one, the second one, just ended. I think they just got rid of it. You never went on that show, though.
I don't really know anything about it.
Did they ask you to come on? Do like a cameo?
They had spoke to me about that at one point, but I didn't feel challenged by that.
I would imagine you wouldn't.
No, didn't feel challenged by that.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't do that. I never watched the second one.
No,
never felt like. I don't know. I thought they should have called it something different. I don't like when they bring things back with different characters, and like at that point just change the name of the show.
Change the name of it.
You know what I mean?
I do. I know exactly what you mean.
If they're going to bring it back with the people that I associate it with. Like,
but otherwise, think of the disservice that's done to the actors that are on that show, right? If that show were called something else, then they would have a chance to have a fair shot, not comparative literature. They would be their own thing. It wouldn't be, you're the second one, or so it's not really great for them either.
The one exception, I think, is Entourage, which I think they should have reinvented with a different star. And I think that could have been its own franchise. I would have gotten rid of...
Oh, you mean like have a different...
I think the only person I would have kept is the agent, and I would have had a different star with a different entourage rising up. So, like, you take whatever the Vincent Chase, whatever that first character was, you ride him for like 6 seasons. Then he's out. He made it or didn't make it, whatever. Now you bring in somebody new, Like maybe you bring in like a rapper actor and
Yeah,
his whole entourage.
That's realistic.
Then you reinvent
happens.
it.
Yeah.
And then you ride that person for 3. Like Entourage should still be on. I don't know why that show went away. I still feel like 24 should be on. They always make the mistake of keeping the same people, but you could keep some of those people, but then incorporate new people. That would work to me.
That takes a really smart showrunner. That takes a really good writer to be able to have all those characters layered like that and stacked like that. It's hard. It's hard to do. Not everybody can do it. So a lot of television isn't like that.
I was tweeting like this. See, here's something you tweet. Like here's an example of a tweet. I was stumbled across 24 on TV, and I was thinking like, man, I miss 24. I miss having that show on Monday nights and
the pace and
just everything, just like the do, the thing going to commercial and And the show definitely got stale.
Split screen.
Yeah.
I love that. That was Mission Impossible when I was a kid. I loved that.
But the show got stale because it was like everything had to end in 24 hours. Each show was an hour.
Well, yeah. You as the audience figure out the formula.
Yeah.
And you realize what it is, and it becomes the procedural. That's what it is. It's a procedural show at that point. This has to happen, and this has to happen, and this has to happen. And within that, the challenges are finding, the new stuff, the oh wow moments or the oh moments.
You kind of know, like, you developed like a feel for where things were going. But like if they had turned that into a 13-episode show and put the 24 hours over the 13 episodes, I feel like it would have been a little more unpredictable.
I do too. I think that gives you 26 episodes or 30. That's a big beast to feed. That's just hard coming up with all that. And that's why when you look at the intricacies of the stories that get told on cable, they're oftentimes a more textured story with a more textured cast, and it's because they're only making 10 or 13 of them in a year, so they can put more thought into it, and their process is, it's a little more stretched out. I think that should be a different category for the Emmys. I think it's. You mean cable versus a network? I think it's much harder to make 22 good episodes of Lost than it is to make 10 good episodes of Game of Thrones. Or I shouldn't say it's easier. I'm saying it's apples and oranges. You can't compare those two processes. And oranges. Yeah, because the content of the shows is so different. One obviously being a big epic period piece, and the other where they have more money, and the other one being I didn't see Lost. I watched the first season some, and then I got lost. You literally got lost. When they first found other people on the island, they lost me. I was like, no. You're out. See, I'm not interested in that. I wanted to see these people, and see how that was going to be. But then that was my preconception that disappointed me. I'm sure if I'd stayed with the show, it became a huge hit for a reason. They were doing probably great stories with good actors. It was a good show. It was always well done and well acted, whether you agreed with the direction television, I've always thought is, again, when I was growing up, it was the greatest medium in the world. And I saw all the movies and stuff, but I saw them on television. Right. So I always thought television was the way to go. And, Well, now that's kind of the case a little bit. I mean, it seems like people want to get on those cable shows now. Like somebody like John Hamm, he gets Mad Men and that becomes a good show. In the old days, you would have just left and done movies. Mm-hmm. Now you stay in that show and then you do movies when you're not filming the show. You have enough of your year open that you can do movies and stuff like that. Like when you guys were doing 90210, did you even have time, like a 30 episodes we were just season? You didn't even have time to do a movie. I had a time to do a movie, one movie in between hiatuses, and then you sort of. Was it a big picture movie or like one of those Lifetime movies? It starts out. I did Buffy the Vampire Slayer first because that's how I got the script to do 8 seconds. I had to sort of make a trade there, and. But when that was a good trade. The problem is in a situation like that is when you only get to shoot a 3-pointer and that's the only shot you get in the game. Yeah, you pretty much got to hit that. You got to nail the 3. Yeah, you got to keep nailing the 3. It gets hard. But that was a really good trade. Harder to do. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is still good. Got no problems with it. Yeah. I watched that with my 7.5-year-old daughter a couple weeks ago. There's a little gore in it, but it's not. She likes vampires, so she was into it. But there you go. It's still held up. It's properly dated. It's not too dated. Mm-hmm. It's not dated to the point that it's weird to watch. Not yet. And it will happen. Yeah, not yet. It'll happen at some point. But
There's a lot of people in that movie too.
Yeah, big cast.
I forgot, like a lot of people who like went on to do stuff use that as like the launching pad or whatever. But
yeah,
I think we were talking about the TV shows and the length. So if like you're doing 22 episodes of The Good Wife,
never seen it.
not as good of a show as maybe Game of Thrones or Mad Men or whatever, but to grind out 22 good ones versus grinding out 10, that's why I think they should be different categories.
They should be, because like in Game of Thrones, you're wrangling horses and swords, and Good Wife,
giant CGI towers.
Exactly, and in The Good Wife, it's a courtroom and some suits, and you got your biggest problem is where do we put all the trailers on 50th Street or whatever we're putting. But again, there are creative challenges for a show like The Good Wife too. I mean,
right.
There are, when you get into sort of what the show is about, within that you have to dig out all the nuance, all the little stuff, the things that keep the fans of the show coming back. And I know a lot of people that write TV shows, and they just spend their whole life with their head kind of wrapped around what could happen next, and what could we do, and would this be a good show? And that's somewhat of a tortured existence.
Did you ever think about doing another TV series, or did you try and it didn't get picked up? In like the 2000s?
I did one pilot for ABC that didn't get picked up. And
what was it?
It was called The Game, and it was going to be a show about a guy that was a sports agent that represented a lot of the high-end athletes, kind of like Jerry Maguire. He had sort of a legal bend to it, where I was going to be the lawyer for these guys as well as their agent. And it was an interesting concept, but didn't execute as well as we would have liked. And
not a bad idea for a show.
Not a bad idea. Well, at the time, because, again, knowing sports like you do, a lot of that stuff was in flux, where, the Lon Rosens of the world were on their way out, and these other guys were, the Drew
Rosenhaus era. That was coming in.
Yeah, that was coming in, and to find a way to articulate and illustrate that, I thought, would be interesting, because there were some unsavory characters in it and some savory characters, and the way people glorify sports is always it's fascinating when you think about it. I remember a little kid asked me one time, why do people love sports so much? Why do they love football? Why will all these people sit and watch these guys play this game? I didn't really have a good answer to tell the kid, other than, like, if you've played the sport and you can relate, then you relate to it from that point on. But the 7-year-old kid hadn't played football. I don't think he'd played any basketball. And just as a spectacle, he couldn't understand why it's all over television. It's all people talk about. There's these fantasy leagues of it. Is that like Pokemon cards? And I was like, kind of, I guess, like Pokemon cards. But he just didn't get. And so I've always been fascinated with the, it's royalty. Look at that. You got it wrapped around the room. I mean, for a big part of our country, it is.
Well, don't you think a lot of it is just doing what your dad's doing? And if your dad's watching it, then you want to do what your dad's doing.
There's always that great moment.
I know, that's why
I remember,
like,
we were talking about Pete Rose earlier in Ty Cobb. When Pete Rose broke that record, my brother and I, we were catfishing. We listened to it on the radio. I'll always remember that. And it's a lot of sport is about having those moments.
We should say you were actually catfishing, not what catfishing means now.
Right. Yes. Right. Yeah. We were fishing for catfish in a lake.
You're fishing for catfish, not
catfishing.
Not trying to rope in
television,
weirdos on the internet.
Television has become something like catfish will exist, and that is freaky to me. I caught that show one night. My son and I were watching.
It's disturbing.
And I literally, again, I was watching it kind of like this, going, like, I felt bad for watching it. I felt like I don't want to see this kind of heartbreak. I don't want to.
Was it the show where the guy fell in love with somebody, but it turned out she was a 220-pound woman living in the middle of nowhere?
No,
because that's every catfish show.
This was reversed,
okay.
Where this woman had, fallen for a brother. He'd given her a pretty good line, sent her the false photo, the whole deal. And whereas people, can see the humor in that, and that's real for somebody out there, right? Yeah. That's happening for somebody. And
it's happening a lot, as we found out in Monte Teo.
And that cannot be cool.
You know, the sports agent show, you made me think of, I always thought Jerry Maguire would have been a really good TV series.
Wish you were running the network back
just 10 years later, Rod Tidwell was a great character. Rod Tidwell would have been a great television character to spend a week with every week.
And it can be, sometimes a lot of executives, they get hung up on, well, what does the character do? Where does he work?
Yeah.
I'm like, that's not as relevant as who he is. Right? Because Tidwell, he was an agent and he dealt with sports and that stuff, but that movie it was only about that much about that. The rest of it was about all the other things that happened to him, his relationship with his client, all the stuff, that Cuba was going through.
Yeah.
Obviously the love story and
the love
But it was more about, my point is, it's always about the characters. If it's a character,
because you could have had more and more characters come in.
Yeah, and if you like Tidwell and you're invested in it, you'll go anywhere with him.
Because Cush could have been a character, the quarterback. Mm-hmm. They could have played that up with his father, who's kind of a scumbag.
Oh, all kinds of stuff. There's always interesting ways to go. Do you see this show? My friend Callie Thorne's in the show. She plays a sports agent for these. It's what's the name of the show, Callie?
Is it network or cable?
It's going to come. It's a cable show. It's a cable show. It's good.
Oh, it's probably like was it the Showtime show Don Cheadle?
No.
Oh.
No. Forgive me, Callie.
Oh, I know. It's on. I know what you're talking about. It's like the Necessary Roughness.
Thanks, man. I love it. The walls just
Don't
talk
you love
to
how the walls talk?
I do. I think
amazing.
It's great.
We've arranged all the walls.
Necessary Roughness. So they're getting into some of the complexities of that and what it's about. But we took a whack at it and.
Who was your co-star?
Well, this is where it all started to get weird because that was the first time I'd ever produced a show that I was on, and they didn't let me pick the actors that I wanted to have.
Oh.
The process of auditioning actors was painful for me and hard, and trying to, trying to explain to these guys. We were casting for a former NFL lineman who had evolved into being an agent. And was going back to he was going back to talk to one of his clients and trying to win his client a job on a team. And the scene was he basically said, "Look, I'll put the pads on right now, and if I can get around this guy, that guy, you give my guy a shot." And so you have the agent, in the thing. And I said, this is going to take a big guy to do this. But week in and week out, I want to believe that guy was a former football player. And there aren't a great deal of actors of caliber that also have the physical package, and we were fortunate enough to have an actor come in, a guy named Stan Shaw, brilliant actor, and the guy that we got
Stan Shaw from the Great Santini.
Absolutely, and we got we cast a very fine actor in his part. But what happened to Stan that day was Stan came in the room, and it wasn't a very big room, and he is a very big guy, and in the course of doing the scene, he raised his voice a little bit and he took his jacket off, and you could see that he is a big, strapping, kind of angry guy. And when he left the room, they were all just scared to death because I don't think they had ever been in a room with a guy that big who was raising his voice, And so they were scared and they didn't want to hire him. And they didn't hire him. And I said, no, wait a minute. You can't let a guy come in here and be so good he works himself out of the job. I mean, he hit that ball out of the park. And just because he hit it across the street out of the park and you've never seen that, you guys are all just scared and you're reacting to that. I said, that's what you want. You want the audience to react. You want them.
Yeah.
I saw a guy act himself right out of the job that day, and it's been different for me ever since.
Wow, now I'm depressed.
That's what I'm saying. It can break your heart.
It seems like the TV pilot season, I'm sure there were a lot of great ideas for shows that just fell apart for a really dumb reason. Or just one reason.
It happens all the
whatever.
time. Sometimes it's hard to get a show to work. It's chemistry. It's an X factor. So, a lot of times all these people are meeting each other for the very first time, and let's all pretend that we've been friends forever and ever. And sometimes you can do that really well, and sometimes not. It's just, it's like when you're pitching, leaves here as a knuckleball, but by the time it gets there, you don't know where it's going to go. You don't know what it's going to be.
Lost was a show that I just don't think gets made now because the pilot it cost crazy money, and the guy was needed to take a big risk. Lloyd Braun, who was doing it, yeah,
a lot of shows don't get made now.
They filmed a plane crash.
Norman Lear's stuff from the 70s that don't get made now. All in the Family.
Yeah,
a guy that says the stuff Archie Bunker said that don't get made now. George Jefferson.
Yeah,
he don't get on the air now. You can't say that's it's a different game now.
The stuff that when we were growing up in the 70s, some of those shows that were like, especially like the comedies, but they were also like trying to push people socially a little bit. Jefferson's and Good Times, Sanford
Norman
and
Lear.
Son.
He had.
Now those shows I think are just on. I don't even think they're on ABC, CBS, or NBC.
No, you find those on Me TV,
or CW, or whatever.
Me TV and TV Land.
Yeah.
Yeah. The old ones, but I'll tell you, I sat the other day. I was not the other day. I was working. I was on a job somewhere, and I was in the trailer for a minute, and I looked, and there was an episode of the Mary Tyler Moore Show on. And I don't know when the last time you ever actually just sat down and watched some of the Mary Tyler Moore Show. Because it's dated, and you see
super dated, right? But quick, great writing.
The clothes are the only thing that's dated about it. It's still the best. It just doesn't get any better than that. Ted Knight, that cast of people, his voice, the way he gets so much
real
humor.
Characters doing great lines.
Real characters doing great, and it doesn't get any better than that.
I feel like Cheers was the last show that seems super dated when you're watching it, but if they CGI'd it to make it not seem dated, could go right now.
Yep. Because great writing, Jim
good
Burrows,
characters,
good characters. Glenn and Les Charles created a show there that was built to sail a long time, and there's no weak link in the chain, right? Every one of those characters had a reason for being there.
Yeah.
They were great. They all brought something out of the other, and again, it's just magic when it happens when you get the right group.
We were arguing about this in the Grantland office because my staff thinks it's weird that I don't watch a lot of network comedies. Like I didn't watch 30 Rock. I didn't really watch Arrested Development.
Oh, Arrested's good.
I know it was good. I just never got into it. And I was saying that I like my quote unquote sitcoms to be shows. And for instance, like I love Cheers the first 4 years. Basically, Coach died, but those first 3 years it was like a show. Like there would be episodes that would end with 3 minutes of no laughs whatsoever, and there was like real characters like
but
stuff.
The real integrity of that initial ensemble was still there,
and the relationships and stuff happened, and it made you feel different things, and then eventually it became a sitcom,
right?
Which was fine. It became more successful,
and they
as a sitcom.
did it in such an intelligent way though, because of the way they were lucky that it was Woody Harrelson was the next one they brought in,
who was good.
And proceeded to, and everybody thought, oh yeah, and he plays the dumb hillbilly guy. Well, for the last 20 years, we've seen him as an actor show. He's all over the place. Brothers all over the place. And then they handled the Kirstie Alley transition well, right? I mean, they made a good choice. They got a great actress, gave her great lines.
And it was still a good show. I never liked it quite as much as I liked it the first couple years. And I think maybe that I'm just a weirdo. Like my favorite comedy ever was Larry Sanders on HBO. Which was like a comedy, but it was also a show, and it was like, and even like it had the best season finale.
And you cared about
and like weird stuff would happen, and I never liked the snap clever line, and that just doesn't work for me.
And that's not what
Shandling
does best.
I'm admittedly weird.
That's not what Shandling does best. Gary's stuff is the quiet stuff off to the side. That's just and he's a really nice, gracious.
You were on that show, right?
No.
Or you didn't cameo on that?
No. Larry David, you dropped the ball on that one, bud. But we spoke about it.
No, Larry Sanders.
Oh, no.
You weren't on the show on that one?
No, I wasn't.
I wonder who I'm thinking of.
No,
that.
buddy, I would remember being on Larry Sanders.
Yeah, I would think you would remember being on that one.
Yeah, I would.
Larry Sanders that's another idea I would bring back with I feel like the behind the scenes talk show thing.
Yeah, but
in this day and age could work really well as a show.
It would, but in the hands of a lesser actor, it could be real bad. Jon Stewart could do it really well.
Jon Stewart could do it, and almost did it. They actually were grooming him to take. They were grooming him to take over that show, and then Shandling threw his body in front of it.
Oh, I think he's. I think Stewart's smart, and everything sort of that grows from that camp. All the guys that have come from Jon's show it's smart. Smart stuff.
I agree. He's taking the summer off,
I look forward to seeing that, man. He's going to direct a movie, and
he's directing a movie, like a serious movie too, not like a comedy.
Anybody can do it.
Yeah.
I've heard, and that's not me. I'm not dissing directors in any way, but I have heard a number of people say anybody can direct a movie,
especially if you have the right people around you.
Yeah, and clearly he's proven to be intelligent. He's got a point of view, and that is job one when you're a director. Because so many directors, they show up on the set, and their whole thing is, so what do you think? What do you want to do? I'm like, no, you show up and tell me this is what's going on. This is what this is about, and within that, you allow me to make some choices in it. But the absence of point of view is a very dangerous place to be, I think, as a director. And I don't think Jon Stewart's going to be a victim of that. He seems to have one.
Here's what will definitely happen. He's going to leave the show for 12 weeks. And like within 2 weeks, something crazy is going to happen news-wise.
That he won't be able to stay away.
And he won't be on the show.
He'll be
and then
doing
it'll
live
be like,
feeds. He'll be
and
doing
then
live...
whoever the host is will have this incredible amount of pressure. Like not only is he hosting the show, but now it's like this massive news thing that's going on that they need the right host for the show.
And then he'll be better than Jon Stewart, and Stewart won't be able to get his gig back.
That would be unbelievable.
Oh,
that would be like Tom Brady and Drew Bledsoe.
Wouldn't that be something?
Although Jon Stewart's a hell of a lot better than Drew Bledsoe. But yeah, same dynamic of kind of like the Celtics with Rajon Rondo right now.
It'd be
he
like
gets
when
hurt,
Skunky bumped Kinnear off Talk Soup. You know, it'd be of that magnitude. What?
Skunky.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't know the gentleman's name, but he had that white stripe in his
John
hair.
Henson.
John Henson, cool dude. Jenny always called him Skunky. See? That's how irreverent she is. Yeah. Yeah, we had Anson Williams on to direct an episode, and Jenny called him Potsy every day. And I was like, would you stop with the Potsy? It was funny.
Anson Williams.
Yeah.
Well, Priestley started directing episodes. I always thought
he's always been bossy.
Thought that was
he
was like getting behind the thing. Give me your best Priestley story. Is there a best Priestley story?
I'm just trying to think of an
Give
interesting
me the
one.
8th best Priestley story.
I don't have any. I mean,
you guys were super tight though, right?
I just don't. So much so that none of it really seems like a story. It's none of it's memorable to me. You know, I mean, he just I used to see him all the time.
Almost died.
Yeah, almost died. Almost died.
Probably should have died considering how fast he was going. Right? What was it like? 200 miles?
You don't like him?
No, I'm a big Jason Priestley.
No, JP. Yeah, he had a bad crash.
What was he going, like 200 miles an hour?
Something in the neighborhood. 180 something. Hit the wall.
That's crazy. I drive crazy. That's a level of speed I would not be intrigued by.
Nor am I. I don't find racing that compelling. I mean, I've raced some smaller cars that not as fast on smaller tracks and stuff like that. And it's kind of, it's on some level it's fun. But I'm not. I don't see the compulsion to continue doing it and get faster and faster. Yeah.
So when you left the show the first time, was he one of your best friends or your best friend or?
Oh yeah, I'm very fortunate when it comes to friends. I gotta say, I value friendship a great deal, and I'm lucky that I have some really long-standing friendships in my life. I get 5 or 6 guys that from the 7th grade who are on the speed dial of my phone. I talk to them all the time. I still have my friend from 3rd grade who I saw recently. He got back.
So you're a loyal guy. You're a loyal friend. I'm the same way.
If I have a friend and they're a good friend to me, and I value friendship.
So you're leaving the show, but you're also like, this is your good buddy that you've been on the show with for 5 years, and you have to film like the last scene with them. So it's like you're acting, but you're not really acting. I would guess. There's emotion there that's different than normal
I just
acting.
couldn't wait to get out of there. I was
Oh, seriously?
Yes. Would you remember your line? Yeah. And then I say, but no, Brandon. And you say, yeah, come on.
And then you're out.
Yeah. I got somewhere to be.
Like, I'll see you Saturday night.
I'll see you guys. Yeah. No, when you're doing the last of anything, I've been on other shows where they were filming their last episode.
Yeah.
And there's just always something really heavy about it.
Yeah.
Because like a lot of people are crying, a lot of people, it's emotional for them for all kinds of different reasons, and that was no exception. I mean, but the thing was, I was leaving. Show wasn't dying. I was going somewhere. And that's, so that's an entirely different context.
You had that was one of the best farewell episodes I think anyone would ever have. Like you got married, your wife got murdered. It was a lot going on. In terms of farewell episodes, it's a good.
It'll keep you busy.
You get a lot of check marks on the checklist.
Right. Gotta do this. Oh, there's that.
Okay. Oh, and that. Oh, yeah. All right. You ride off, and that's that. It's a good one. I would put that against any farewell episode. I don't know what the other ones were, but if there was a
but you'd put that one against them, wouldn't you? Yeah.
A March Madness bracket.
I'd be seeded. Is that what you're saying?
I think you would be a 1 seed.
Oh, dude.
See, by the time Priestley left, they didn't even care. He got he was like at the tail end of the show.
Oh, they were
he just
kicking
drove
him in the ass. Like, that's their foot.
Like, all right, take a hike.
Get out.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stayed too long. No, they. But again, the great thing is I can say pretty much whatever. Jay knows if I say anything bad about him, I don't mean it. If I say anything good about him, I don't mean it. So
didn't you work together again? Like what, last year?
Oh yeah, we did 2 years ago. I had this movie that I was making, and I had to have a Canadian director, and first choice.
Oh, there you go.
First choice was Jason. We'd always wanted to do something other than 90210 together, and that was a great shot. And it was a Western, so we had a good time with all that.
What was that like?
It was a blast. It was good, again, because the brother shows up with a point of view, knows what he wants, but at the same time, I was going to direct the movie until we had to make it in Canada, so he knew that I was invested in it a great deal, and I had a point of view as well. And that is oftentimes the recipe for just a disaster, with the exception of we worked together so long, I know on the day he's the director. I've got my ideas, and I'm the producer, and I'll tell him, but he's the director, and you have to let him do that, and you have to submit to that. You have to be the actor. My favorite thing about being an actor is trying to, for someone who knows what they want, for that thing to be something really interesting and compelling, and then for me to try to communicate that through my work, and that's not always the case, but that's what you're shooting for there. And I knew with Jason, he would let me have as much input, and he wouldn't feel like I was stepping on his toes or anything. So we worked pretty good together.
Did you enjoy this more or less than the Andy Cohen show?
I would put this above in terms of the overall
Thank
experience.
you.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah, you're a cerebral guy. You like having the conversation that could go anywhere.
Sure. And it's nice to, the absence of screaming people.
I'm sorry I didn't have more Sixer stuff in here for you.
Next time. I'll send you some.
We had people talking through the walls. I'm sorry I didn't like the photo that much.
It's all right. You'll have a little stuff. Yeah, it's not a great photo. But, that's one of those stop motion capture deals where they just take and that's what you look like. But it's all right. I appreciate you having me.
So we'll see you on Twitter, I guess. Never. Maybe.
It's not my choice, but
I don't see you on Twitter. I don't see it happening.
I don't see that one happening. But should that change, I'll let you know, and you can let all your listeners know, the legion of fans out there. And
last prediction for the Brown season?
I'll get to tweeting you guys. It will end.
Oh, it'll end. It'll end before it should end.
It will end at some point. 8
wins? You get 9 wins?
I don't want to jinx it, man. Don't make me pick. I don't know, but it's just going to be more.
This could be Chris Wanke's year.
Yeah,
probably not.
Could be. We're
probably
hoping.
Not. So you're with me that God might really hate Cleveland potentially, at least from a sports standpoint.
I don't think he loves them. Let's put it that way.
Not a huge fan. Yet.
Not a huge fan.
Luke Perry, thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Dude, it's a total pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.